He was really an unknown figure in the Western world. And suddenly he stopped, and through the interpreter he says, how do you take pictures without flash bulbs? All the other photographers have flash bulbs. And I said, very fast American film, very fast Japanese lenses. And all at once, again through the interpreter, the whole room fell silent. And they had just put up the Sputnik, and we didn't have anything. They were on top of the world. And Khrushchev says, he says, the Americans have all the secrets of photography, and the Russians have all the secrets of rocketry. Maybe we should trade. So I took a $500 Leica from around my neck and handed it to him and said, okay, let's trade. Well, this just broke up the room. And
you know, John was 11 at the time.
Anyway, he says, he takes the camera in his hand and says, if I accept this, I can take it with me, but if I give you a rocket, what will you do with it? And I says, if you give me one, I think I can get help. And that broke up the room, and it was later a big international thing.
Did you ever give this to Khrushchev?
No, but in the height of the McCarthy terror in America, I used to send friends of mine autographed pictures of Khrushchev.
Speaking of autographs, it does bring up a fact that I ought to tell who we are. The name of the show is Talk About Pictures. I'm George Fenneman, and with me is my constant and very talented companion, Leigh Weiner, who is a very, very good photographer. Our guests are John Bryson, a life photographer, actually Life magazine correspondent turned picture editor.
Which was a tragedy, if I may say so.
And actually, John went on to become one of this country's finest picture journalists. And our other guest is writer-director Sam Peckinpah, who recently referred to himself as the only civilized man left in the world.
Sam, be a critic. Bryson took this picture. John Bryson took it. Do you like it?
I think that's the most indicative picture that I've ever seen of what it's like to finish a picture.
You see, explain that. What do you mean finish a picture? At the end of shooting?
That was the end of shooting, and I was watching beginning of a rough cut.
I have to interrupt. He'd been shooting for 65 days. I mean, he was really beat, and he had never seen pardon me for interrupting you, but you know, I'd never stopped.
Well, excuse me, I'll interrupt you. What film was he shooting?
Yeah.
The Getaway in Texas, and this was at the end of a really excruciating shooting period and all, and he had never seen what's called an assemblage, which is before you get a rough cut. And anyway, we were sitting in a projection room.
Thank you.
And the picture was all finished. The actors were going home, and the whole thing was wrapped up. And I was shooting him, watching this. I was doing a story for Life magazine with the light from the screen on his face, which is very hard to do. It's very dark in there and all. And
what are you shooting at?
Well,
half?
Oh, I'd say maybe an eighth or a fourth of a second. But then the lights went up. The projector finished. And then the room was absolutely dark. And I shot 2 frames, and this is one of them, and there's another one here.
Let's take a look at this other one.
And this is an absolute blackness, and I must tell you, I don't even know how the exposure came out. It must have been a half a second. I don't even know.
But it worked for the picture. I mean, the grain and the darkness. It's a great picture.
No, I think I must take exception to that. I think it was a subject.
Listen, it does work. Look at that. That is good.
It's good. 2 best pictures ever taken out of anybody who's ever made a film knows what those pictures mean, and I want to thank John for them.
They are good.
I wish that he'd taken them.
You did take them, didn't you?
You take this one, John?
Yeah, that's Cheops Pyramid in Egypt, and it's shot with about a 600mm lens. And I had to, I actually must say I made a sketch of this before I left Malibu to go to Egypt. But you have to get in exactly the right place for a picture like this, where the sun goes down at exactly the right spot. And must say it took me 2 or 3 days, and I finally ended up, I had a hired car, and I was standing out there in the desert with this big long lens on a tripod, and there the sun was going down at exactly the right spot, and here came a jeep load of soldiers, and I was arrested for being a spy. When I went ahead, I said, let me finish getting the picture, and I shot it, and they took me in. That's when Nasser was still in, and then they let me loose a little later.
You know, as one photographer, I happen to think this is one of the 10 greatest pictures ever shot. I think that's Hemingway, I think.
Yeah,
Kicking the beer can?
That was Hemingway.
Great photograph.
That's a famous photograph.
Yeah, that was in Ketchum, Idaho, and he's walking down a country road. He had been through a couple of those airplane crashes in Africa, and I think he liked this picture because it made him look young. I must have, he wrote me, I must have given him 60 or 70 prints of it. Every now and then I'd get a letter say, kid, would you send me another 20 prints, care of the Morgan Guaranty Trust Bank in Paris. Now, there's a photographer, a marvelous photographer in some ways, for some people like him, named Karsh, who goes around giving interviews. Every time he goes through a city, he says, Ernest Hemingway loved my portrait more than anything in the world, but he's just a liar. Because I have letters from Papa and from Mary who say, this is the best damn picture I ever had. Please send me 20 more.
I must make one remark. John gave me an original of this, and I had it framed. It was stolen.
Well, right now, I'm going to give you this.
I don't know why they don't steal my pictures.
Okay, you can give this to Sam. Would you give me a print of this? And I don't ask photographers for pictures.
I'm very flattered.
Let me ask, before we leave it.
If I don't ask, does it mean I don't like it? I'd like a print too, John.
Sam, let me ask you a question.
If
you were doing a documentary on Hemingway, does this concept of a scene kind of fit your idea of what you might want to do with Hemingway?
That's why I told John he should quit being an actor and start being a photographer.
So you made me an actor.
Oh, in
the Getaway.
The Getaway? Yes, yeah.
I played a heavy, which I think is a little...
Excuse me, I think John made Sam an actor.
Well, no, this was a true thing. He wasn't acting. He had just done a scene with Ally McGraw, and he walked, you know, she did the scene, and he came over and kissed her very gently and said, how beautiful, and I thought that was kind of a lovely moment.
Nice picture.
That is a nice picture.
Very warm picture.
The lovely lady, and despite what a lot of critics say, a fine actress. No, I learn a lot from actors and writers. The photographers who cover my show cover what's happening, and they record what's happening. And Mr. Bryson happens to have that rare touch that he can corrupt a story as well as anybody else in the world.
Nicest thing someone said tonight.
Is that where you two met on the set?
No, we met with Jason Robards down on the beach, and he's one of our best friends, one of the great men in the whole universe.
It's called the Malibu Mafia.
your group, Robards, you and
others.
And a few others, yes.
Where'd you take this?
This was in Mexico. I did it with a 600mm lens, and I was trying to... now everybody takes blurred pictures of bullfighters. Yeah. I mean, that's a big cliche, but at the time, no one had done that. And I liked this sort of because that little trail of saliva there, and you can see the eye sometimes if you look at it. And I was very touched. You know, I'm usually take photographs for magazines. Never think about anybody wanting one in their house. And a whole bunch of bullfight aficionados, and they have clubs. I never knew this, but anyway, they contacted me, and I guess there are several hundred of these hanging in houses, which kills me. I mean, the fact that somebody would hang one on the wall just breaks me up.
Wait a
minute, why does that break you up?
But because usually John and his friends hang them in the basement.
That's interesting, though, because...
No, but I'm used to having them on a magazine, say, or even a cover, and it may go, you know, 6 million copies. But when somebody says, well, like you guys just asked for this picture of Hemingway, well, I'm terribly touched. This is not a phony thing. You know, the fact that you really want one to take home kills me. I don't know how to explain it, but I just...
Well, I'm going to hang it on the wall, and it means I'm going to take down one of my pictures to hang yours.
Well, that's what I did, and mine got stolen, so I have that one right there.
Sam, while we have this picture on, you know, I'm not a believer what critics say, but a lot of people give you credit for taking violence, slowing down the action so people can see the flying entrails, and grabbing it. If you took that concept of yours, which is a very nice one, I happen to like it very much, but you carried it through all the way, you could have a still picture or a series of still pictures. Do you think the still captures the essence of violence as well as your slow motion effects on something?
Only when it's used by an artist such as myself.
Did you ever try?
I'm lying.
Did you ever try to use a still?
I'm talking about John Bryson.
I can never capture it. Still will never get it like he can do it.
But at what point, for example?
There's no way.
How slow, though, do you think that violence reeks off the screen before you stop the camera, or is there a point?
It's just a question of how long you've been in, or when you've been in an automobile accident, or you've been in a fight. You'll notice to yourself that the adrenaline that is pumped into your blood, into your brain, slows down time. And I tried to catch that.
You do it very well.
But see, I could never, I mean, a still like this will never capture it the way he can do it. I mean, because you get the sounds and the feeling. I mean, it's incredible. That's why that's the medium in the world compared to this.
That is a good picture, excuse me. That's a fine
That's the terrible tempered monster.
Sitting, I remember that.
That's a swell photograph.
I remember that.
Oh, God, he was just getting ready to get up and start cursing and swearing and stomping, and we're in Durango, Mexico.
Powerful picture.
You do that, Sam? You seem like such a nice person.
He is the most, he's a benign monster.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Doctor.
I accept
benign
that.
monster. Who's the benign monster with the 10-gallon or Stetson?
5-gallon, I think.
Well, do you want to tell him or shall I? That is my famous death scene.
No, that's a second-rate actor I picked up on the streets of Malibu one time, drunk, and brought him to San Marcos, Texas, to be Tejas, to be an actor, and he did a surprisingly good job. I don't know for what reason.
He did a good job. He set the elevator business back many, many floors.
Let me tell you something. He's the worst. You know, I never did anything like this.
Look at this. That's fabulous.
Is that terrible?
You know, as a life
feel like
photographer.
No, that is, no, obviously, that's a leading man.
Leading to where?
Leading to
Leading to where?
This was your death scene, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You're getting killed here?
Oh, yeah. I'm getting.
Is this
The elevator is falling 5 stories.
That had to set you back in your career, Sam.
Listen.
It really did.
It did.
It had to have.
It
This
did
was in the Getaway,
about
right?
Yeah, that's the
$30
Getaway.
million.
But let me tell you something. You know, I never did anything like this, and it's a, you
For
know,
the
I mean,
company,
I've
that
watched
is.
a lot of pictures being made, but suddenly there you are. It was sort of exciting to get fitted for all these costumes and everything. So the first scene, not this one, I'm sitting there, you know, and Peckinpah walks over, and he's got on dark glasses tonight, but ordinarily he wears mirrored glasses. You see, you can't see anything behind the
Those
eyes.
are mirrored.
Those are nice. Those are nice.
I'll take them off
So anyway,
so I can look at you and straight.
Anyway, you know, I'm terrified. I mean, you can't imagine. There are all those cameras and people, and Steve McQueen is going to walk out of the Huntsville prison, and I'm going to be there.
You're in
and
the car.
I'm in the car, and I said, you know,
I'll
and
never
everybody,
forget
they had the wardrobe men there fitting me with mics and the makeup, and you know, I'm just about to, I hope we can say this on television, I was just about to wet something. And
Please.
anyway, he comes over with the glasses and stands there looking at me. Never a word has been said about the interpretation or what are you going to do? And I says, "No, Sam, please, is there anything?"
Well, you can read, can't you, John?
Anyway, I said, what should I do? You know what? Absolute silence. The mirrored glasses are looking at me. And then he just sort of shakes his head and walks away. And then he says, "Roll."
You did.
I thought I was going to die.
And you did. John,
Was he
John,
good on the first take?
Excellent.
He printed the first take.
He did?
But he also took my chair away. I must tell
With
this
your name
story.
on it, you
John,
mean?
before-
That first day I was there, and they bring out all the chairs. You know, it says Steve McQueen, Ally McGraw, and there's one that said John Bryson. I couldn't believe it. I nearly fainted, and I said, I think I may take a picture of this, but then they'd all laugh. Then I did a dumb thing. I did walk into a scene taking a photo. See, I had 2 roles. I was also
he
taking
was-
You also the
pictures.
photographer?
Yeah.
Yes, he was
Anyway, now,
also
wait a
into
minute.
a scene.
Now, wait a minute.
I
This
was
first
shooting a
day,
scene.
I walked into this, and I came out, and he gave me that terrible look, you know. And he said to Bob Basiglia, the
Prop master.
man, he says, "Take his chair away." And do you know what? For the next 65 days. Everybody else had a chair, and I never had one.
This picture, John, is a man that can influence. I know for a fact you set a trend in this picture. All
right, that's a thing for Fortune magazine, and what it is it's the board of directors of Weyerhaeuser Timber, and at the time I took it in corporate photography, you always took a picture of a bunch of people in a boardroom. So anyway, I walked in the boardroom and shot this thing, and they said, "Is that all?" And I said, "Well, no, it's not all. I'll tell you, gentlemen." I said, "I took this picture, and it's very dull. It's a bunch of men in business suits, and you could be the board of the Ford Motor Company or American Can Company." And I said, "To me, Weyerhaeuser means timber." And I said, "Now, what I'd really like to do is get you in a timber stand." Well, the vice president in charge of public relations fell dead right there on the floor. And I said, 20 minutes from this office, I have a timber stand, and it's all marked, and I'm waiting to take your picture there. And there's a long silence, and old man Weyerhaeuser says, "By God, that's a hell of an idea. Get the cars." And they stopped the board meeting, loaded the cars. We went out there, and I had a couple of red ribbons tied between two trees, and I had a ladder standing there, and the board got out there, and they stood there, and I took the damn picture.
As a man that photographs violence, Sam.
These are Peckinpah's
That's
pictures.
right. I want to hear you
I can't
tear them
stand
down,
amateurs in any field. You know, I thought this was going to be about me. Why do we have to look at Peckinpah's pictures?
John,
I'm an amateur too, John.
will you continue with this? No, take 30 seconds and continue to knock amateurs, will you?
Yeah, knock them. Take a look and knock them.
Why?
Well, those are pretty good snaps, I must say.
They're good photographs, Sam.
This is from Benton Station. That building is 107 years old and was taken.
This building right up here?
Yes, and I took detailed pictures of it along with it, and then I tore it down and built it as the cabin of Cable Hogue, which was later burnt by Warner Brothers.
Why would they do that? With that wonderful wood? Why would they do that? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked. Why would they do that? I should know.
I've asked the same question.
I should know.
They burned it because it didn't belong on the studio lot.
Yeah.
But that was the old Weiner Hotel. It was one of the great whorehouses of all time.
It's very nice.
And
why do they burn nice places like that?
well, I tore it down, but they burned it, and I built a picture on it.
Pretty
with
good.
Jason
Pretty good
Robards and Stella Stevens, and
that was a very good film, wasn't it?
One of the greatest love stories I think I've ever filmed.
Pretty good pictures, I must say, Peckinpah. But look,
Thank you.
I don't try to direct and I don't think you should try to take pictures or act.
All right. How about this one, John? Did you set this up?
No,
Lights off.
that's
Stay with us a minute, Sam. You're getting
that's Marilyn Monroe, and I was doing an essay on her for Life.
Is that who I think it is?
No, it's Arthur Miller, and